During our prolonged history on this land, we faced crises. We have faced being poor and hunger and diseases, and regardless of those different times, the constant element always was our patience and our wisdom to deal with those circumstances. When things became harder, we remained solid and were characterized by true grit. I know that we are will face hardship, but we will face it with our belief in Allah. And we have spent all that is valuable to maintain the health of a human being and their safety. This pandemic came to surprise the whole world with since it impacted all aspects of life, and the kingdom of Saudi Arabia was not isolated of those changes and impacts. And because the kingdom is a pioneer in every field and every aspect, and always ahead of the race to protect those who live on those lands, we have seen an acceleration of how we impacted and been able to face this pandemic. Many committees have been formed and many initiatives and programs have been launched to ensure that we provide all that is necessary for our citizens with full commitment and harmony among all government entities with high levels of readiness. And due to the novel COVID 19, we have seen a decrease on the demand on oil that has affected the revenues on oil. And due to what the kingdom have a strong financial position because of its precautionary financial policies to ensure the financial stability and the economical sustainability, we dealt with this pandemic by controlling the size of the debt and the deficits, including the programs of the vision and the major projects. Despite the kingdom being able to face all those challenges and implementing all the precautionary measures to protect the health of all the citizens and the expatriates, providing the financial and economical assistance, were not affected according to the global credit classification agencies. The budget of 2021 comes in a very dire historical moments as we taken a hard turn, putting ahead of us unprecedented challenges, preparing our exceptional financial policies to review some of the government expenditures and to reprioritize all the articles in our budget and to implement all the necessary programs and initiatives that will enable the private sector and mitigate the effects related to the pandemic. The measures undertaken by the government of Saudi Arabia to reduce the risks after the full closures was based on the government support in addition to a financial support that was reflected on the budget of 2021. And this was concurrent with the stoppage of the economical activities, the implementation of 149 incentivizing initiatives, as we have allocated 218 billion riyals for those projects so that the health of the nation will be considered in every step and every decision, and also all the investments that the kingdom engaged in to build a strong infrastructure had helped to rapidly respond to the challenges of this year that has resulted in maintaining the supply chain and the continuation of government activities and the private sector. The budget of 2021 made the financial stability and the economical stability a very important priority as we are facing the financial and economical challenges, and to preserve the economical gains and to focus the expenditure on the main articles to ensure the highest level of sustainability. And because the future is based with a strong will and solidarity and the continuous work that we have been able to overcome all the challenges and the obstacles. Our belief continues to be renewed in our wise leadership that did not fail us in this regard. And with all the honor, we have said to the whole world that we are capable to move forward, to fulfill our dreams and our hopes, and all of that because of a vision that takes us to a brighter future. So yes, I see that in reality as it is, and that without this, we will not be able to correct our expectations and to determine our future expectations without without showing the challenges and present the challenges that we have lived throughout this year. And I must say that we might live it even in this coming year because the repercussions of the coronavirus and the economical impact of this pandemic might continue to the next year. So we're hoping that the achievements regarding the cure of the pandemic in the health sector will have an impact of how it will return the global economy as it was before the pandemic. So we still feel the sense of responsibility, and we should uh, address the citizens in the same manner that we still remain honest and transparent in those regards, and fully understanding the role, fully understand, and they must fully understand the role of the citizens as to fulfilling their duties to implement those programs in those hard times, and also they also should have the ability to understand some of the measures that were undertaken to deal with the situation uh, until we all become capable to preserve our gains and to implement programs of great importance and could be of more importance compared to other programs that we had in the past, and to be able to have compatibility between the needs of the citizens and what we have accomplished, something that we are very honored to perform. Uh, uh, we can compare ourselves to any other country in the world. We still uh, stand solid as far as maintaining the dignity of the citizens and the well-being of the citizens, the care that they have received, because that's their right as citizens, and this is something that I must emphasize on. But I have not seen any other country that had dealt and have provided for the citizen as we did, and uh, this is something that were clearly evident throughout the year. Your Royal Highness, the agreement that had uh, made the world thinking about those repercussions. So at the end of the first quarter of this year, the pandemic was not clear. The corona pandemic was not clear. The OPEC Plus issue. At that point, we were still discussing whether they will renew the agreement. So after all this time had passed, and the different outcomes, and now we see new horizons for the OPEC Plus briefly, and this is natural. And when any pandemic such as this one start affecting the economy or any other economical issue, the point of views and the solutions uh, might be many as far as the impact, whether they're short term or long term impacts or the future impacts. And I regret and to say that, but I'll say that yes, these differences happen. But we in the kingdom had a different point of view here in the kingdom. This pandemic will have an immense impact, and normally, at least in the energy sector, we believe in taking early measures to contain such matters because uh, I think to take initiatives and to take early measures will have better results rather than leaving matters until things become harder, and the curement of such problems will be very costly, and we needed a prolonged time compared to any preemptive actions that we take. So, preemptive action is needed to deal with those matters is of great importance, even if there were signs that the this pandemic will be over or the issue would be over in general. We still engage in the procurement process, and regretfully, at the beginning of the first 2 months, we did not see this recovery. So as we all know, we know how those agreement ended. We came in March without an agreement. That means that there are no restrictions on any country to so they can produce oil according to their own national needs. So we were facing two options: either we the concept of the market management, this role is over. So we go back to the free market concept, and all at that point will realize and understand the risks of this concept in a very main of a good such as oil or commodities such as oil that should be organized, and that also will help to preserve the rights of the producers and the consumers, and according to the global market needs of any future demand to be concurrent with the global economical growth. So there were a dire need to prove that this free economy or this open market for a very important commodity is a major risk. So we just awaited for 1 month until we saw the repercussions of such non-agreement. I want to mention 2 points. First, everybody did not understand fully that the repercussions of this pandemic did not come out as we expected. So it was we faced some hardship. So this is just a simple matter, as a few comparison. So all the citizens, colleagues, also that participate with us in this forum would understand. So if we compare it to other crises, the uh, the Asian flu crisis, even the global market continued to grow. The the major financial crisis in 2008, there was shortage in the economical growth, and the financial impact was limited. So compare those two crises compared to this crisis that we are living. There's a very important aspect regarding oil and oil products. Even though the global economical growth had declined by 4.4%, but most of the impact was on the oil sector specifically, because it was one of the sectors that was impacted, because the transportation or the mobility sector was one of the one of the sectors that was hardly affected. The economical impacts of the corona pandemic, the oil sector and the gas sector in general, but the transportation sector rather had the biggest share as far as the negative impact. So this is a part, it's a portion of the whole picture to understand the full scope of this problem, the impact on the shortage of demand in the in 97, 98. There was a 5% shortage. The shortage in demand was 3 million. It was seen as the biggest economic crisis. The decline in demand was 6%. let's look at this current crisis that we're living. I don't know that any commodity or any of the internationally traded good was affected as oil. The crisis was limited in '98. The time range was limited, and we were able to recover. But in this pandemic, or during those circumstances, it's been a prolonged period, and we continue it in a negativity for a extended period of time to deal with the issues that this pandemic has caused, and then the movement and the transportation sector was affected, as I mentioned. So there are some other evidence to the development of the market and how was what was the solutions when the demand was declined by 23 million barrels a day. The some countries production declined also, and the country did decrease the production with full realization of the issue. So as I mentioned, there's a let's play this open market game, and let's see who will have the ability to manage better manage this market. And this is exactly what happened in April. But let's see the repercussions of what had happened in April. Many of the observers did blame the kingdom of what they did at that period of time, but this is a situation that was what we were forced to get in. We did not plan for this, so the, uh, all our enablers and empowerment factors could have been affected. But in April, in the month of December, we were celebrating our leadership role to managing this market and managing all the markets of this commodity, and we returned back to square one. And I believe that we brought back to our sense of pride. I have mentioned that during an interview with Rabia, so I will say that this brought back pride to us because we are the best and the most capable uh, of managing this market. And yes, we can manage this commodity with agreement among all countries. That something that had enabled us and enabled all the other countries to give us this uh, pioneering role because they fully understand that we had a serious uh, role of the early warnings that we made. Uh, and as we mentioned that we could not leave this market open or have this market as a free market. All had realized that what we said at the beginning was accurate. I must be honest that I have to thank the leadership of our countries to enable our ministry to take clear and transparent and frank decisions, knowing for sure that it was representing the will of the leadership, especially the supervisory role of His Royal Highness Crown uh, Prince, as he is heading the Higher Committee of the Hydrocarbon Materials, and this is just a word of truth, uh, a statement that has led those efforts with dedication and devotion, and now we are seeing the results of those decisions. The size of the decline that was needed, just a small comparison. In '98, 3,600,000 barrels, and during and the other pandemic and the other crisis, what almost 4 million barrels. But the spectators know and the viewers know in April what was the size of the production decline. It's a matter of that make us feel honored that we were able in 3 days to gather all the countries in OPEC Plus and to have the reduction by 10 million barrels a day. And we had a direct meeting after this OPEC Plus meeting the very next day, and we were able to receive commitments uh, by declining the production and other commitments that had reached 7 million barrels from countries that was did not want in the beginning to enter in any thing that had to do with the uh, market management. And what one of the countries had even asked uh, to get out of OPEC or to cancel something that was called OPEC. And now things have changed. That's very same country is coming to play a positive role in market management, and there are uh, videos on the media and official statements and official speeches made by political figures that thanks OPEC and OPEC Plus to bring back stability to the market. This is just briefly uh, to state the facts. And let's view this agreement and compare it to other agreements, realizing the size of the decline of the production. All the agreements came to agreement, but let's monitor the size of the agreement, even during the months of January and March. All the reduction was by a million, 1.5 million, something of no comparison to what's taking place now. Now we have reached 9.7 million barrage reduction, and we're looking at the level of commitment and re-emphasizing on commitment. We have agreed on something called the compensation mechanism to give this agreement more credibility and to give uh, the market reassurance that this agreement will not be as other agreements that took place before, and not each and every individual will be just uh, not stay committed to this agreement. On the contrary, is also an unprecedented agreement. None of the other agreements that OPEC Plus had in the past did not exceed, any of those agreements did not exceed 1 year. Even if they were an agreement or compatibility for any agreement for a whole year, there will be a review. Taking into consideration the hardship that we're living in this pandemic, we still focus on this agreement, and we still were capable of maintaining uh, anonymity among all the other countries without all the precautionary measures needed. So I believe that this is what I needed to state in general. Your Highness have pointed out, you hinted to the G20. There was a meeting for the G20 ministers of energy, and it was not just a matter of the presidents of the Kingdom of G20, but there was actions on the practical aspect of it, actions on the ground. And that meeting was a historical meeting to achieve the goals of the kingdom. There is a slide, if we can present to my colleagues, to the citizens, and that's this is reality, not being beautified. No images, no videos, no sound effects. This is reality as you see it now on this slide. In April, the price was $19, and last night it was at 51.1%. Those are the results of a country that made great efforts, and I'll say a country. I'm not gonna say a minister or a ministry. Those are the efforts of the whole country. What had led those great results is an ability, a leadership capable of benefiting from all the tools or optimizing all the tools available to it. If we had not taken those measures in April, we would not been able to bring back matters as they were before, and to reemphasize that matters are serious, and if had we left things without management, things could have been worse. But those are the results for the actions that we have taken. So when you mentioned the G20 Ministers of Energy meetings, there was a true realization that those countries must play a role, and that role is based on their uh, interests. And major countries were greatly impacted, and specifically during the month of April and March, you started to see that the production of oil and gas was declining immensely, and there had to be an intervention, and also they had to reconsider many of the granted facts, and those granted facts of the past was there is no intervention in the market business. Practically, that's true, but practically this is not implemented, and this is a fact that I always mention. The directors of the central banks, their everyday job is to intervene in the market. All the directors of the central banks of the world in each and every country of the world is to interfere in the market. There must be uh, someone who takes the necessary steps to organize the market. Any international commodity must be organized by regulate. It must be regulated, and that this is what we are seeking. We're not trying to target certain prices. We are not talking about reaching a certain level of the oil prices. We are talking about stable markets, sustainable markets. Markets of stability that support development, investment, and all other aspects of the economy. And this is if the investment investors know that there's instability, and the indicators will always it will always give indicators that will encourage the investors to continue their investments through what they see, that they are stable markets, sustainable markets, gives clear indications to the investor that they can continue their investment. So I always said, and I'll say it again, that there are no values for high prices if it's not an incubator for lower prices in the future. I've never seen during my career in this sector that we've seen a decline, a long term of decline, but the fact by being an incubator for higher prices in the future, this had happened in the 90s. It happened from 2000 to 2010. Even if the circumstances, those conditions continue until next year on the same pattern, or even with lower at a lower rate, uh, I'm just saying this as I understand things, and I hope that I'm wrong. Uh, the lower the prices will have financial dimensions, economical dimensions, because there will be uh, the less capable producers will be kicked out of this market, but this will have great economical, financial, and political impacts for many of the producing countries. And this is once again re-emphasized the concept uh, of the international role that the kingdom is playing. And so that's why it's part of G20, and other countries listen to us. And you have mentioned the issue of the circular carbon economy, and this is just a result of the appreciation of the role of the kingdom as it wants to play other major roles in aspects of no less importance than the oil market. but it's a futuristic view that helps all to come together an agreement with a vocational and a professional manner that helps all to be capable of contributing and collaborating. It's an extensive uh, dialogue that we have in the whole sector. Of course, is the most important to the kingdom. If you, I excuse you, Your Highness, maybe we'll give an opportunity for the experts here with us. Mr. Dr. Abdullah Guez, want to share his opinions. Would you? Thank you, Your Royal Highness, for this summary and all the data that provided, the inclusive data that you have provided, that presented your role in managing the oil market effectively. No doubt that the kingdom had managed those three crises with efficiency and great competency during the past period. It had resided over the presidency of G20. It has uh, been able to control and manage the health sector with efficiency and the energy market also. No one can deny this, but the ignorant. The future, that's the question. The future is this pandemic, to a great extent, had accelerated the process of transformation to the clean energy. We are lucky that the Asian market, that is our major market, started to rise up again and the demand started to increase and will continue to increase. On the other hand, the next American administration, they're not friendly of the a smooth. We expect smooth sailing, but this is temporary because all uh, the other countries are trying to transform to the clean energy. What is our hope uh, in regards to other usage of oil products and also the renewable energy for the kingdom? And we must have our own ambition to engage in production. Maybe the whole picture was not with the same level of enthusiasm as it was first presented. I'm sure that you can visit us in the mystery, and I have a team of citizens, both males and females, great men and women, no doubt. And this is an important matter for us in the Ministry of Energy and for the government and the government programs that you leave the country for bets and bets whether the demand on oil will increase or not, or will it decrease. I think that's some sort of an adventure that we should overcame 30 years ago. But the difference between today and tomorrow that there are seriousness, if you may, that we have certain activities and programs, and we would not make us subject to this volatility. And we have talked about the economical diversification. We have spoken about the diversification of the state's revenue from different resources. And even if this aspect was were achieved and those goals were achieved, could have helped us to apply could help us apply our oil policy appropriately. And we just wanted to give the chance for those conducting or taking the decision to have better resilience in dealing with such matters. What is the government is doing now is we have overcome the debating phase to have a full understanding of the Vision 2030 that no doubt will be able to reduce our reliability on the oil, our reliance. We must review our policies regarding the economical diversification because it became a fact that we must continue to work effortlessly, relentlessly to diversify the economy. Again, this economical diversification is of great importance, but also it must be correlated to the revenues of the state to have many resources, uh, and in case that we had any such crisis as the one we're facing, the state will be not be affected. We have programs as follows, and I want to ask all the spectators if you wanted to review the programs of the ministry. The sustainability of the demand is a very it's a huge program led by a number of the youth working in this sector. They have no other work but to find other means of the usage of the oil and the gas by different means, and optimizing oil and gas by creating a new demand that differs from the past traditional patterns. The success of this program is tied to find the alternatives of other uh, means of optimizing oil and gas. We're not far away from the renewable energy file, and I believe there is a serious program now that is implemented with a great deal of respect, with all respect due to all. And maybe this is could be an exaggeration, and we have the program of the energy mixture with a higher committee headed by the Crown Prince uh, to monitor this issue, and maybe you have seen the quantum leaps that was made. We have seen that in the electricity sector, and to use the renewable energy, whether it was the wind energy or the solar energy, and more reliance on gas to provide electricity. This is a system, and once this system is completed by 2030, I will not be, I will not feel any sort of ambiguity if we were capable to export electricity to nearby countries. Now we have also the Gulf State Integration Program. Yes, we will be exporting electricity to Egypt, Jordan, and Iraq, and I will not feel strange if one day I'll come, and I hope I'll become the one responsible. Uh, those who those who reside over this post after me, that will be able to export electricity to Europe and other countries. But as the Americans said, all options are open, and this is all we are doing in the Ministry of Energy. All that is available, all that is accomplishable to reduce costs or to direct a certain system to work more effectively or to meet the demands of the globe of what we will be the best. And we have numbers that will be declared very soon. We have a solar energy program that will be the cheapest on a global level, and it will be uh, on competing uh, for all those who might provide lower prices for electricity. Your Highness, uh, yeah, I just want to say that we have our time is up. Those were inclusive answers. It has enlightened us as citizens and as officials. The great efforts that were made during this exceptional year, made by Your Highness and your teamwork with the directives from the custodian of Tualang Mosque and the Crown Prince. May Allah preserve all and preserve our country as we can overcome this pandemic. And this new opportunity came from the womb of this pandemic. اوكي. موجود.
مشاهدينا
Our session will be titled The Future Sectors, as we will talk about different issues about the growth in the mineral resources and the new investments of the kingdom and the catalyst of the investment post the pandemic, in addition to tourism, the impact of the future, and the attraction elements that the kingdom and the national industries in the kingdom. I welcome my guest here in the studio, His Excellency, the Minister of Tourism, Mr. Ahmed Al Khatib, and His Excellency, the Minister of the Mineral Resources, Dr. Bandar Al Khraif. I'm glad today that I'm here with you in the budget forum in this second session. We start with you, Mr. Ahmed. What is your view of the promising opportunities provided by the tourism sector, specifically with the foreign investors, of course, after uh, that was provided by the FTA recently? I congratulate all on the approval of the budget. The tourism sector is an important sector, and the Vision of 2030 have focused on this sector and taken all the measures necessary to participate in the GDP. The tourism sector contribute by 10% on a global level and 10% of the total manpower of on a global level in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia that contributes by 3.5% of the GDP. So we have a long journey until we reach 10%, and that's the global level. And it contributes by 4% in the labor market in the kingdom. So we have about a million jobs until a new job until we reach the 10% global average. And therefore, we have announced the tourism strategy. We have opened door for strategy, this new strategy. And before the pandemic, we had 5,000 tourists annually. So it was a very great start. So the void that we have between what we have now and the future goal will reach $220 million in investment by 2022, and investment that reach 5 billion until 2030. And based on that, we have given investors the opportunity, whether here locally or internationally, and praise be to Allah, the investors are very excited to invest in this new sector because we have the main components for investment. 70 to 80% of the tourists, they travel to heritage sites. We have 5 stars recorded with the UNESCO, registered with the UNESCO, and we have beaches on the Gulf and the Red Sea. So we have the main components to attract those investment. We have announced this by the state, and we have announced investments in Qiddiya, Diriyah, and the Red Sea project. And the private sector also have announced major investment as we coordinated with the banks, with the General Investment Fund to support the investment of the private sector. And based on this, we are very optimistic that this sector within the 5-10 years will see an impact. Your Excellency, the investment opportunities, the catalysts of the incentives in the market. We have all the opportunities that will help us to lead in this sector and to be one of the major contributors on a global level. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, as has mentioned, have a great heritage sites. It has beautiful beaches. It has major, huge cities with huge number of huge populations, and we have beautiful people here that welcome and hospitable people that helped us that the experience of the tourist or the visitor that comes to Saudi Arabia will be an enriched experience. And this is we have discovered during this seasons that that took place during this year. And once we announced the tourism visa, the first 5,000 tourists that visited the kingdom was positive, and also the government expenditures of marketing and promoting tourism. The first declaration was in as we welcome the world into Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in more than 25 countries, and we have launched the summer campaign, and was named Tanafas after or breathe after the quarantine, and the hotel's occupancy has risen by from 10% to 80%. And now we have the winter campaign now. So the support of the government, led by the custodian of the two holy mosques and the Crown Prince, to benefit in this sector. The market will be operating, restaurants will be operating, So you'll see that is a full scope of benefits for the whole market. And I move on to Mr. Bender now. Of course, the industry sector in the kingdom is a sector that has been there for a long period, and this sector is seeing advancement day after day. So, how do you see the future of the industry sector and the mineral resources? Thank you. And first, uh, I want to congratulate the custodian of the two holy mosques and the Crown Prince for this budget, despite the hardships and those hard times. And I also like to thank the ministry and the Minister of Finance to prepare for this form of great importance, and maybe not many citizens and media know what happens behind the scenes to prepare the budget and all the changes that were made during the past years to improve the status of the budget, the means of expenditure, and this facilitate our work in the executive branch to benefit from those budget, whether it's ministerial budgets or the programs with the budgets. So we thank them for those great efforts that will be a base line for us, or starting line for us. I'm glad that the industry sector is a very strong sector, and it has helped with development during 40 and 45 years. This was based, had a strong base from the beginning, where the huge industrial cities in Jubail and Yambo and other cities, or the other complexes that is part of the industrial commission, in addition to the industrial fund that was part of providing financing to those projects. The industrial sector is qualified, well qualified to have a new start, and this new start will be building on what we had accomplished in the past in the sectors that was the kingdom exceptional, such as the petrochemicals sector. We targeting increasing the added value, trying to enhance or create projects that will benefit from this infrastructure and those products. And we are creating projects that optimizing some of the products made by those industries that will have a great added value, and this with no doubt need major investments and creates job opportunities more than the other major industries in the petrochemical sector. And also, on the other hand, there's a clear plan to nationalize many of the products consumed in the kingdom. Kingdom have an immense purchasing power, the population, the growth rates, and the average income of individual in the kingdom. So this purchasing power, we will try to nationalize as much as we can from our products, and to the nationalization of the product will be based, will have commercial basis strictly, and some of the industries that we are trying to attract, you can assure that there are some incentives, and also there are the targeted sectors that we feel that the kingdom will be able to incubate, and we can use our geographical location as we become a major producer. And in this regard, the kingdom had invested in the exports bank, started with the capital of 30 billion riyals, and they started with the operation reaching 5 billion riyals, supporting the exports of the kingdom, in addition to the exports commission. So the industrial sector truly, even though the kingdom had reached a level that where it's considered having a solid infrastructure, this pandemic had proved also that we are on the right path and will create good opportunities for the industrial sector, and the kingdom will be managing those industrial areas and the production process, as some other investment need to be expanded. But the mineral resources also another promising sector, because the mineral resources were not optimized to its full potential, and the latest decision taken in this sector, uh, as we start to implement new projects by 2020. And this system have three main axes of great importance. The first axis is that enhancing transparency in the system, because today we are targeting to have a system capable of bringing promising both local and international investors. So this needs a great deal of transparency. And also another issue is that the investor in mineral resources is the same as any other investor. So the laws and the bylaws, the legislators must have the must be transparent, and the investor expect those legislations that we're about to announce. And the other axis is that this system will be the clarity of the revenues generated in those investment, and that will incentivize the investment not only in this sector but also in the transformative products, as we can benefit from the supply provided. In addition to the three components mentioned before, we will have also a company that for the mining services, and this will provide services to the mining resources sector, as far as providing supervision, providing data to the investor. And according to the Kingdom's vision of 2030, we have a huge plan as far as the geological survey. Those who want to invest in the sector, they need to know what types of minerals are available, and the areas of which those minerals are located, and what they need to invest in. We have launched the geological survey program that exceed with a cost exceeding 2 billion riyals. We have launched a number of projects that were signed. The contracts were signed with a value exceeding 500 million riyals, and we continue in this regard. This geological survey will cover the Arabian Shield area, which is 1/3 of the kingdom area, and will provide very valuable information and data for the investors as they enter this sector with the risks and more determination. Tourism has flourished recently during the pandemic. And now, Your Excellency, what is the role of investment in the new sectors, such as the tourism sector, and how do you see the future of tourism, in the coming period? Is a very promising future. The most important fact is to have all the assets needed to form sort of a base for you to stand on. And we have the heritage sites, we have mountains in the south, the beaches on the coast, the nation, the culture, all of that. We just need to present it. We need to show the world what we have. And then the 1.6 billion tourists that roamed the world in 2019, and hopefully will this pandemic will be something of the past, and we will have a share of those 1.6 million tourists. And now with the vaccine coming, things will be promising for the tourism sector in the future. The whole world, all the countries of the world, had a lockdown during the pandemic, and all the local tourism have flourished in all the countries, not only in the Saudi Arabia. And we are one of few countries that have launched marketing campaign to explore the different sites in the kingdom, tourism sites in the kingdom, and as we have full trust of the medical protocol, as we have seen commitment from our Saudi citizens. We have a great level of awareness here, and we did not face any challenges during the summer campaign, regardless of the fact that 8 million did travel during the summer. And that was very encouraging during that period. They seized the opportunity during the summer to explore beautiful sites in the kingdom, in our beloved country, and we acknowledge the fact that we have a long journey to improve the legislation pertaining to tourism. Legislation regarding the licensing of the hotels, supervision of the hotel system to receive a license in the past. That took you about a year to 2 years. Now our target is to receive your license within 10 days. 10 days. And we also have had legislators pertaining to distributing surveys to the public. And we had received the opinions of the local investors, international investors. You needed to go visit 8 government entities to receive a license, whether it was a hotel or furnished apartment. Now you just deal with one government entity, and that's the Ministry of Tourism. So there's a directive to make those legislations more attractive to the customers, both locally and internationally, and to tell all our citizens about the different tourism sites. We have determined 17 historical sites. In some countries, you only have 1 or 2 sites, but we have many tourism destinations, whether on the beach, the mountains, or the major cities. And based on this, we have been working on those tourism destinations to make it the destinations that for those who want to come to the kingdom, or even the citizens, when they arrive in those areas, they find all the services needed, whether food services, transportation, entertainment, and so forth. And we started to evaluate those tourism destinations. We did a full survey, what they need. So far, we have made a survey, 8 of 17 destinations, and we started to understand what are the shortages, and we are working with the private sector to attract investments to make development and improvement to projects in those areas. So it's a very promising future. The sector, this is a promising sector. The plans are available. The support is available. We have no excuse but to achieve all the results that we planned for. There was the local tourism have reassured the Saudi tourists that indeed we do have local tourism, and as you have said, those 17 destinations that you have chose, some areas might need development 100%, right? And I would say that of 80% of the visitors that go to France, they stay in one city, and that's Paris. So not other countries don't develop enormous sites, but we here in the kingdom with those 17 destinations, this is a huge number. But so if you want to, whether the local tourists or the international tourists need to head to a certain destination, you need to make sure that their experience is exceptional, whether it was the food or visiting the museums or entertainment activities or shopping in general. They need to have an exceptional experience. Now I move on to an important point. As far as the national industries, the targets of 2030 to increase the role of the local content. How did you see the local content to link the gap and the shortage during the pandemic? And I believe that that the kingdom today, as citizens, we did not face any challenges to acquire our daily needs, whether it's food or medicine. and that tells us that uh, the way we dealt with this pandemic from different government entities and the private sector was exceptional, and it was a true proof that we have uh, components in our economy that helped us to link those gaps and meet the needs of the citizens. What we have seen is the sector's ability to interact with the events as they happen on the ground, the capabilities that we have seen from some of the industrial facilities and complexes to meet the demands of the market was there, and this is what had truly enhanced and increased our level of trust in those industries with minor interference from the government. And we, as government entities, we needed to contribute. Maybe the biggest challenge at the beginning to try to achieve the balance between that to have those factories provide for the markets and at the same time try to maintain the precautionary health measures and the curfews that we had. Maybe this was a challenge for us because this is a newly established ministry, but with the teamwork that we have in the ministry and in the system in general, have been able to deal with those challenges appropriately. And maybe what is also uh, very astounding is that the disruption that happened on the global supply chain made uh, that made this a strong conviction that the local components of great importance, and even with our our industrial strategy, we started to work on some amendments or some changes to create opportunities. But in general, the industrial sector did respond to the pandemic effectively and positively, and the support programs that were provided to the industrial sector played a great role to uh, to support that sector during this pandemic. So you notice that all the numbers were positive, and even in creating jobs and issuing license during the pandemic, we have issued 800 licenses, and this is considered, given the current circumstances in this pandemic, as a positive indication. The economy is recovering, and the monthly numbers, 151 factories have started production. So strong, uh, uh, strong support to the vision of the kingdom that help support the sector as we see appropriate. That leads me to a question, and the programs of 2030 have enabled the mineral resource to grow during the past period and the future period, and also to take down all the obstacles. How did you see the level of growth of the mineral resources sector and the industrial growth post the pandemic? Of course, the mineral sector, as I mentioned, now we have the investment initiatives in this regard. We have launched many platforms in this regard. We have more uh, among the applications that we have received. There's a good level of demand that shows the transparency of the system and the clarity of the procedures. Is of great ease to look at a specific site, whether there's a company that applied for the same location, and if that location had a license for that location, what is the name of the company? Uh, so this huge amount of information will have a positive impact to attract more investors, and we believe that the level of engagement is high for the industry sector. The industrial cities still seeing growth. The infrastructure, we're seeing growth in the infrastructure. Also, I'll just give an example. In my last visit to the uh, industrial city in their area, I visited one of the recent uh, factories. Uh, Three young people said that they were able to get their license and import uh, all their equipment, and they started production within 4 months. And they started producing surgical mask, and they have increased their production capacity, and we have received the license to produce. So that gives us an indication that we are truly walking the right path. Traditional industries now to move on to the advanced industries level. The kingdom is qualified to adopt the fourth industrial revolution and to adopt the appropriate capabilities to raise the bar higher for this sector, the industry sector, and this is appropriate with the level of education that we have among our youth, and to lower the reliability on the traditional handmade, if you may, production, and those new industries, advanced industries, must be with investment, as we are capable of investing in the best technology, and hopefully we can build on that for the future. Your Excellencies and dear audience, if you allow me to start now to pose our questions, we have a number of media representatives. Nadine Hani from Al Arabiya Channel. My question is to the Minister of Tourism. Hopefully, this pandemic will be over and we have the foreign tourists to come back to the kingdom. Will it be mandatory for the tourists to take the vaccine before they enter the kingdom, whether it's religious tourism or entertainment tourism? Thanks for the question, and we are looking forward to that the whole world will be reopening again and opening our doors for the tourists. Peace be upon you. Nasser Tibi from Al Arabiya Channel. My question is to the Minister of Mineral Resources. Increasing the local content will have direct and indirect results through what's known the multiplier effect. What is the best scenario for the local content will increase the benefits, and if we overcome, maybe its cost will outweigh its benefits. So how can you determine that level, not only on the level of the project, but on the level of the whole sector in general? Thank you. I think it's a very important question, and today the multiplier factor is very important in the industrial sector because in this sector, many other sector or a main operator for other sectors such as the services sector and other sectors. So I think the one of the characteristics of the kingdom is that it is an open market, uh, very low customs here. So any industry in the kingdom is an industry that is based on that has strong bases, and the government support is almost null. And all that the government does is just to prepare the legislative and the legislative environment, and to provide capital for some of the infrastructure projects. So the multiplier factor that you mentioned is not led by government initiatives. So we greatly support the growth of the sector uh, as far as the legislations. Because those legislations are of great importance. So to have create an environment that will attract investments, and the infrastructure also goal is to create uh, great investment opportunities. So I'll give an example. The Royal Commission of Jebel and Yamba, we always measure the size of the investment made by the commission uh, versus what is paid by the government, or the financing by the government during the 54 years or the 40 years that this commission have uh, started their projects. Every one real spent by the government had generated 8 reals. So I think the multiplier factor here is clearly evident. And in the industry, I believe we have can double those numbers. Uh, the jobs, for example, or the job opportunities. One job opportunity created in our sector will create 5 jobs in other sectors. So I have no worries that there are a need to create balance, because balance do exist, because we have an open market, the customs at very low rates, and the support for the direct support is almost not there. And what the government does as far as the legislative infrastructure and the infrastructure in general, there's another part that we need to talk about, which is the local content and the the new system that was launched after establishing the local content commission have a very important role to create an opportunity for national investments that aims to empower the Saudi economy, so that the investment or the money will still remain in the system, and Saudi system, as we optimize uh, from the merchandise from the industrial sector and the services provided by other sectors. Those legislations, no doubt, uh, is an attracting factor for investment, but we cannot say that it gives an unjustified support in concurrent with the international practices. Peace be upon you. Yasser Shwere from Ikhbariya. The kingdom seeking to raise the percentage of tourism. What did the tourism provide investors with as far as support to support this sector? To activate any sector, you must have legislations, good legislations, and you must have funding to participate in building and operating. You must also have need marketing. In regards to tourism, we have worked on the legislations, and I think it's one of the best legislations in the world. We opened the kingdom for foreign tourists, and this and a huge number of tourists will arrive to support the private sector, the campaigns and the advertisement we have mentioned. I, now I focus on financing the tourism investment, or the tourism fund, or the tourism development fund was newly established. And if the investor have a certain idea and needed funding in the form of loans, so the fund will be working with the Saudi banks to implement the ideas that will be pumped into the sector. It has a capital of 15 billion riyals announced by the government, and the Saudi banks have stated their obligation of 150 million riyals credit lines based on the competency of the ideas provided by the private sector, the legislations, the financing, and the investment opportunities are available. During the summer, the mountainside, some people have complained from not having hotels, and now we have arrangements that will support the investments of the private sector. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, during the pandemic, during 2020, the coronavirus has affected the whole world, and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia was exceptional by providing support for the private sector during the pandemic. Uh, and part of that is the private sector in the tourism sector. Many of the hotels during the pandemic was quarantine sites. More than 70,000 Saudis came from abroad, and the state has spent millions of dollars on those hotels, and the state also had provided support by 60% for all the Saudis through the silent system and have delayed some of the payments. And we had the marketing campaign during the summer, so the sector and all those invested in the sector in the kingdom is one of the least affected sectors on a global level. Some sectors have had a full bankruptcy, and the number of jobs affected in the world from the 330 million jobs in the tourism sector, 100 million had lost their jobs. Up to this point, we are still protecting those who work in this sector. So our experience during this pandemic or 2020 of one of the great success stories that we can tell. Peace be upon you. I'm Mohammed Namir from Bawat Arqam newspaper. What is the evaluation of the national industries during this pandemic, and what is your future plans? What is your plans to support the local content, and maybe you give us an overview of the program and what are the goals and the objectives and the benefits that companies will receive? As far as the first part of the question, I think we covered it, and as I have mentioned, that we have seen that the kingdom, all of its citizens and expatriates of the countries that suffered the least during this pandemic, and this response was based on a strong base that's available, and also what had the government have engaged in of activities to support the sector. Made in Saudi is a very important project. Yes, we do have industries here in the kingdom, and I regret the fact that we don't talk about this program made in Saudi Arabia as it needed to be spoken about. We need to speak more about it and to reinforce the loyalty, to reinforce the citizens' ability to engage in this program and on other aspect, and this also having sort of a brain-born map. We base this by the consumers in many of the countries that we export to, and whether that was issues of quality and the prices and the competency of the Saudi companies serve their clients outside the kingdom. The merchants, the exporters have a high sense of responsibility and honesty, and this is no doubt a very important factor. And we have a strong base of products. We have international names that brands that had reached many countries. All those efforts we try to benefit from and optimize. We want to have a clear message of how we will make our product reach different parts of the world, and we will launch this product by at the beginning of next year. We have started this program, the same projects made in Saudi, and the slogan for this project, we had a contest for the Saudi youth with more than 50 of them. 9 of them were chosen, and they started the journey for 3 days to build the identity of this project, and hopefully it will be out to the public soon, with the goal, as I've mentioned, to reflect a positive image about our industries and products here in the kingdom, and hopefully it will be reflect a good image for all. Our time is up, and I thank you. I thank our guests, Your Excellencies. I thank you for being here. My thanks extend also to our dear audience for being with us. Thank you.
لسه باقي جلسة باقي جلسة
باقي لو سؤال الآن هذا بترجمون بين الفقرات ولا الحوار نفسه؟
لا إذا في كان أفلام إشي ممكن الأفلام ترجمة.
أوكي الحين في شيء شغال هذا
شغال ترجمة.
أوكي. With the goal of enhancing the products, enhancing the supply chains during the pandemic, to maintain the health of the citizens and the expatriates, the accomplishment
تعكس الاستجابة السريعة للظروف الطارئة. شملت هذه الإنجازات القطاع الصحي والقطاع المالي والاقتصادي والقطاع التعليمي والقطاع التقني والقطاع الغذائي وغيرها من القطاعات. كما بلغت الإنجازات المتعلقة بالموارد البشرية 58 إنجازاً، شملت تقديم برامج ومبادرات لتدريب وتأهيل الكوادر الوطنية في مجالات مختلفة، وتحسين المخرجات وخدمة حاجة سوق العمل، وكذلك زيادة نسبة التوطين. واستهدفت البرامج كذلك تنمية الرأس البشري في القدرات الرقمية وربط البرامج التدريبية بمهن المستقبل، بالإضافة إلى تطوير الكفاءات الاستثمارية وتأهيل الكوادر الوطنية من الجانب القيادي. وعلى مستوى السياسات والأنظمة فقد بلغت الإنجازات 155 إنجازاً، شملت تحقيق أهداف مختلفة، منها تسهيل بعض الإجراءات وإعادة تقييمها لزيادة الكفاءة في الإنفاق وتحقيق الاستقرار الاقتصادي. كما جرى تعديل عدد من اللوائح والأنظمة لخدمة قطاعات مختلفة مثل قطاع الأعمال، بالإضافة إلى تحديث عدد من الأنظمة لتمكين المرأة من المساهمة في الاقتصاد وتعزيز مشاركتها في سوق العمل وتمكينها من ممارسة الأعمال التجارية. كما روعي تفعيل مبادئ الخصخصة وتمكين المواطنين من العمل الحر. وعلى صعيد الإنجازات المتعلقة بالتنافسية والإجراءات الحكومية فقد بلغ عدد المنجزات 238 إنجازاً، شملت استمرار عملية الإقراض للقطاع الخاص إلى جانب تسهيل إجراءات تحصيل الأقساط المستحقة وزيادة الكفاءة التشغيلية للأجهزة العامة. كما شملت المنجزات قطاع خدمة ضيوف الرحمن، وكذلك القطاع السياحي والثقافي وقطاع الإسكان والقطاع الصناعي وقطاع الاتصالات، وكذلك دعم المنشآت الصغيرة والمتوسطة. وعلى صعيد الإنجازات المتعلقة بالمشاريع الإنشائية فقد بلغ عدد الإنجازات 129 منجزاً، وتميزت هذه المشاريع بالاستدامة، وكان لها تأثير مباشر وغير مباشر على المواطنين والقطاعين الحكومي والخاص. كان منها مشاريع لبيت الله الحرام والمشاعر المقدسة، كذلك للمطارات ومحطات تحلية المياه والمجمعات السكنية في قطاع الإسكان وغيرها من المشاريع التي تخدم المجال الصحي والاجتماعي والتعليمي والتقني. وأخيراً، وعلى صعيد الإنجازات المتعلقة برقمنة البنية التحتية، تمكنت الجهات الحكومية من تحقيق 162 منجزاً، شملت إطلاق وتطوير العديد من المنصات واستحداث أنظمة لدعم التوجه للتحول الرقمي وتوحيد الإجراءات وتسهيلها والإسهام في سرعة الإنجاز. كما شهدت الإنجازات استخدام أدوات الذكاء الاصطناعي في العديد من التطبيقات بهدف تحسين مستوى الخدمات، وكذلك استثمار التقنية في خدمات فئات ذوي الاحتياجات الخاصة. إنجازات تحققت برؤية ثاقبة لوطن طموح يسعى لنهضة الإنسان الذي يعيش على أرضه.
اهلا وسهلا بكم اعزائي المشاهدين.
Welcome back, our guests, as we talk about the sustainability of investments to support the local investment. We welcome you all, your excellencies, dear audience. Welcome back. I welcome you all in this virtual meeting and in this dialogue session, third dialogue session in the second day of the forum of the budget announcement of 2020 that will be entitled the sustainability of investment to support the local content. We will talk about different axes about the future of investment post the pandemic and also the investment in the kingdom, also the catalysts of the future, and also the role of the government funds to incentivize the investment and the most prominent accomplishments of the investment during the pandemic and the role of the investment funds to promote economic activity. We'll talk about the enablers of the growth and the big role that the played by the funds, and also the expenditure on the major projects and its pivotal role of the future as a key driver for the economy in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. In the beginning, I would like to welcome my guests in this session. I'll start with the Excellency, the Minister of Investment, Mr. Khalid Al Faleh, Mr. Mohammed bin Mazid Al Tuwajri, and His Excellency, the Director of the General Investment Fund. Welcome all your excellencies, and I start this session, Engineer Khalid. Maybe as far as the role of the Ministry of Investment, when will the characteristics of the strategy will be clear? In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Thank you, Brother Hamad, and I'm glad that I'm here with my colleagues, their excellencies, in this session. And before I start, on behalf of all, we congratulate the custodian of the two holy mosques and the Crown Prince, hoping that Allah will provide them support so this budget, as the ones before, will help us to advance in the development aspects in this. This is the first budget of the history of the kingdom, and we have a ministry named the Ministry of Investment, and I believe that launching it in this period is a great indicator of the strategic view of the kingdom, of the importance of the investment sector, because it's not only a sector, but it's as an inclusive effort of all the government entities to develop and diversify the economy. As I have mentioned in the beginning, the launching of effective aspects of the economy that did not play a major role in the economy. This ministry is working horizontally with all the other sectors, such as the agriculture, the mineral resources, the communication sectors. So it's responsible for certain specific sectors and working with partnership with the other ministries, as the HR ministry, the Ministry of Economy, the Ministry of Finance, and the funds that I am honored to work with my colleagues on. The ministry is an extension of a journey that started 2 years ago, the General Investment Fund named SAGIA. And I'm very honored of what have been accomplished in this commission to lead this commission, and started to promote for the kingdom as an investment destination, a global investment destination. But there's a realization that we need more than marketing. We need more inclusive work, a ministry capable of fulfilling those duties. So allow me to talk about some of the accesses that was part of the ministry duties. First, what was called the development of the business development and project development. The commission in the past was try to promote the Lumina opportunities. We know that there's double those numbers now of those investment that need survey studies, that need to understand the market studies also, and to be entered into the invest in Saudi Arabia. This initiative was launched by the Commission earlier, and it has an international reputation that we are proud of. The second axis of the work of the ministry is to improve the investment policies and to coordinate with the other entities that launch legislations and policies that have a great impact on the investment. And we think the determining factor in the future is the competitiveness of the investment will be mainly based on this legislative environment and the policies applied, whether it was pertaining to investment conducted by the ministry or legislations and policies that the Ministry of Investment will play a major role in, and to ensure the factor of competitiveness, and to coordinate the incentive packages launched by the kingdom is pertaining to the same goal and the competitiveness of investment. So those can be financial investments, it could be legislative incentives that will help reduce the risks or raise the levels on the economical return on the project that we have spoken about in the first axis. And some of it will be establishing special economical areas that will have exemptions for some of the fees. The fourth axis is coordinating axis, and maybe this resembles, I would say, that's the nation effort. I would not say the government work is just as a symphony with both the public and the private sector. And if each and every artist play independently, that will not be a symphony. This is the analogy I want to give here, and we're hoping to have a symphony to coordinate between among all our colleagues in different entities, specifically the private sector. This coordination is to coordinate the role of the Saudi investor with the foreign investor. The Investment Commission was capable of attracting foreign investments. Now we are more concerned about the Saudi investors as we are concerned with the foreign investor. We coordinate all those roles. We will coordinate with the General Investment Fund, and my colleague Yasser Rahman is a partner in this effort, so that all the categories of the investor, whether they're government investors or semi investors or the entrepreneurs, all will play a role, and the ministry will be able to coordinate among them. Now I move to the Councillor Mohammed Tuwajeh, the Councillor at the Royal Court. The government funds support the non-oil revenues for the kingdom. That is considered one of the most important pillars of the vision of the Vision 2030. Maybe we would like to know more details about this fund that you have worked on to develop the investment. Of course, the National Investment Fund is a 2 years old fund, and the CEO of this fund is the Crown Prince, and it will be an inclusive financial establishment. We had many funds. Some of it is 50 years old, worked for a long periods of time, and recently the Tourism Investment Fund and the Import-Export Bank, we are trying to move towards strategies that will serve the non-oil revenues, creating jobs, providing support for SMEs. So when those funds work independently, they can work under one umbrella with high levels of credibility that better serve the private sector, especially the SMEs. And this is one part. And also the National Investment Fund work with the same entities that have shared goals with the Ministry of Investment, with the Treasury, with the different investment commissions. Now is directed more towards serving growth goals of the economy. I'll give you an example. If we take the sector, the health sector and the medicine sector, this is a sector that have great opportunities. The General Investment Fund is looking at all the survey studies and see what potential investments are available, because they have the financial coverage. And the General Investment Fund support the SMEs in this sector, and the Finance Ministry also serve this sector. So there's readiness to manage crisis, and during this pandemic, the Development Fund have pumped 22 billion riyals. So our expectations for 2021 that there will be 45 billion riyals that will be spent on all the sectors, especially those that has a role to play in raising the revenues and developing the investments. So we believe that the addition made by this fund will be by 87 billion riyals, and a full support for the economy that reach 120 billion riyals. The numbers are not important, but the question is, where are those funds move, and what's impact on the strategic goals that the fund trying to achieve? Now I move to the director of the General Investment Fund. How does the General Investment Fund target to be ranked number one on a global level, to become a sovereign fund and to be the key driver for the economy of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia by 2030? It should be the key driver now, not by 2030. The General Investment Fund started in 1971 with a clear, transparent developing goal, and the strategy have changed as he headed as chairman for this fund. The view had changed immensely as we tried to reform this fund. The goal was 565 billion riyals, and the assets have reached 1.3 trillion riyals. So it almost has doubled. according to Q3 of 2020. So the liquidity is available, and this what will enable us to support the investment strategies of the fund, and we hope that we will be the biggest of its kind, a sovereignty fund of its kind, in addition to forming partnership, a global and local partnership to promote the position of the kingdom in this regard, as it's evident and clear in the vision of 2030. The General Investment Fund is the effective key driver as far as the diversification of the economy. While we're heavily relying on oil now, we have strategy of economical diversification. We have established more than 30 companies in different sectors, such as tourism, defense, military defense industries, and we continue to invest on an international level in different sectors, such as electrical cars. And we think that is not an international investment, but is an investment that's integrating with the local investment. If we can bring them here in the kingdom, another company such as Uber, that that has created more than 150,000 jobs, in addition to other jobs, as an investment in Aquapower, which is considered one of the best companies in the renewable energy, not only on a local level, but also on a global level, as they are present in more than 17 countries in the world. Your Excellency, the engineer, we have gone through very hard times as this pandemic got severe. So how did you deal with that matter in the Ministry of Investment, and how did you deal or worked with or take some precautionary steps during the coming period as we see the repercussions of this pandemic? First, before I start talking about the Ministry of Investment, we most speak about the system of the efforts by the government, led by the custodian of two holy mosques, and as we have been able to combat this pandemic, one of few countries during 2020, and we set an example, and all the international agencies have acclaimed our efforts, and even have lifted up the cautionary measures for those arriving from the kingdom due to the safe environment provided here in the kingdom. And we all know the strict measures undertaken at the beginning of this pandemic, as we always giving the priority to the human, to health, and we all know those facts. And this was a prominent factor in emphasizing the role of this solidarity of our economy, and this is also simultaneous with and on different paths, and few countries has been able to do so. And the financial system has taken the necessary financial measures that had maintained high levels of credit and the currency of the kingdom. They have provided surplus packages that exceeded $220 billion. The role of the General Investment Fund, and a great portion of it was spent on the health sector, about 50 billion. The central bank also had provided liquidity for the banks to play its role, and also a number of programs to preserve the jobs of the citizens through the SANED program. So I'm very honored to say that the Ministry of Investment, as I mentioned, is a newly established ministry, but I believe that we got right into it, or to work as we established the ministry and taking the precautionary measures. We have established a 24-hour center and continues to work until now with all means of communication. We are the ones we're communicating with the investment companies and their ability to conduct business as usual. And we have resolved thousands of issues that companies faced during the pandemic. We helped them combat this pandemic, whether they were logistic matters, issues of human resources, to understand more about the incentives made available by the government of Saudi Arabia and with its different government entities. In my evaluation, UNICTAD has acclaimed this center as one of the best centers, or rather the best practices to combat the corona pandemic. And the proof of this is not this is an inclusive work. It's not only made possible by the Ministry of Investment. The Kingdom is one of few countries during the first half of this year that we have seen a rise in the flow of the foreign investment. 2 weeks ago, I said it was 12%, but the number has changed to 8%, but still a positive number to attract foreign investment. The global average is a decline during the first half of 2020 by 49%. So I believe that this is a strong indication that it's an attractive environment here in the kingdom that is capable we were able to combat this pandemic. And the most important that we were working in a continuous workshop to prepare the strategy and working post the pandemic. And I have mentioned some of the characteristics of the strategy in the first phase of providing the surplus package, incentive packages, preparing projects and providing all the platforms, staying in communication with the investors. Once we open our doors for investment or for travel, there will be forums and conferences as usual. Going back to the director, the investments of the fund, and I'm talking about investments here in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and will take the role of the fund on expenditure on major projects on the quality of life for the citizen. What is the role of the fund in this regard? I mentioned in the beginning that we always have an investment goal, and historically, when it was first established, was for development goals, and now there is a balance between the development and the investment goals. The more viable the investment is, the more sustainability we achieve, and therefore you can achieve development too. The fund is committed, at least in 2021 and 2022, to invest 150 billion riyals annually, and this number will increase annually until we reach 2030. And those investment are just local investments, not counting the international investments. This will have great economical impact from all aspects, whether it was related to the GDP or to the number of jobs created or the economical diversification that we have in our economy. The major projects such as NEOM, the Red Sea project, the Qiddiya project, and also Roshan that had for the residential sector, building more than 6 cities in the kingdom, building 395,000 residential units. So all those numbers and all those investments will have an impact and an effect and return on the local economy in general, and in general on the labor market, and also will, and its result will lead to enhance the quality of life in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And there are many investments in many other sectors, such as the entertainment sector and the recycling sector. All of this will lead to an increase in the quality of life. So this is in addition to some of the projects I mentioned, or the companies such as the refinancing company will be an enabler for the home buyers and providing Your Excellency. There are different arms of the, if you may, for the fund to invest within the kingdom. You have mentioned, Your Excellency, the fund have great accomplishments. How did the fund benefit from the pandemic? You talked about take advantage of this some of the opportunities made available after this pandemic. Of course, it's something that we are very proud of, and with directives from the Crown Prince, the chairman of the General Investment Fund. And he always spoke about how we, in the past, in 2008, how we lost an opportunity that we did not invest in the international markets. So we were ready. We spoke about this, what our accomplishment in the past, and it wasn't the best solutions. So when this pandemic hit us, we did not look at the American markets. We looked at the international markets in general. The markets had declined sharply. We worked on three main axes to take advantage of their opportunities: the strategic investing, and the third is what we call risk and finance. We enter into companies that need support and buy stock. So the first portion of the strategy of the fund, we have implemented it. We had great numbers. The returns were more than 100%, and other companies were less. So in general, the performance was great. So we was not there just to take advantage of the opportunities, but it is part of our work, and this is, of course, is what we made. For the other companies that investment could have an economical return on a local level is the international investment, and how can you bring those investments into the kingdom. Some of the kingdoms in the kingdom, some of the international investment now, as we talk with those foreign investors to come into the kingdom, and I go back to the counselor, His Excellency the Counselor, what are the enablers of the National Investment Fund during the pandemic, maybe to achieve the goals, and what is the expected impact of those efforts? Of course, there are many, but the most important is to have a central treasury system. Instead, in the past, we had each fund had its own liquidity. Now the efforts are unified and the priorities are clear, and also the management of the capital, whether those loans were long-term loans. So during this pandemic, we understood what are the sectors that need the support more than the others, such as the aviation and transportation sector. There was support from more than 290,000 individuals through the Human Resources Fund, through the institutions that hired Saudis, and we started also to work on an infrastructure fund, because those the infrastructure helps the SMEs, helps the individuals, it helps the treasury as far as developing the economy sustainably. Many things that we did learn during the pandemic. What are the sectors? What are the priorities? How we can better manage our liquidity? How can So allow me, Your Excellencies, dear audience, we will receive some of the questions that from our spectators and the media representatives for topics related to this session. From Al Ikhbariya, the new investment sectors will create a competitive environment in the kingdom. what level of preparedness is the kingdom in? What are the preparations of the kingdom in the field of competitiveness? And I believe competitiveness is the secret word here, or the password. As far as the investment on international level, all the countries are trying to put itself as the most competitive, and this have many aspects to it. And one of the angles that we have excelled in the past in, we've been able to attract many investments, and mainly the input factors in regard to the energy and feeder stock, whether in petrochemical industries or our industries, and we built a base, industrial base that we're proud of. The second issue is in regards to the infrastructure, and for several real years has been spent on, and now since we are talking about the budget, I highly acclaim what the government is have done of those generous givings to continue building the infrastructure. The Riyadh Metro is one of the major products on the level of the world, on a global level, and the airports in Jeddah and Riyadh, the expansions, the main expansions in those facilities. Mr. Yasser Ramayan has mentioned investment in the major infrastructure project made by the General Investment Fund and other projects such as Red Sea, Qiddiya, NEOM, or any other major projects. But maybe the change here that we have seen in the kingdom and we have surprised all by is the digital infrastructure. The kingdom, with average income, still a developed country, a country reliant on oil, that has excelled in this digital infrastructure. They have reclaimed the kingdom as one of the best countries, as we are able to deal with education remotely and working remotely. All those angles of the infrastructure, in addition to the inputs, are main elements for competitiveness. But what's more important is what we will do with the support of the chairman of the Council of Economical Development, the legislations and the policies that I have spoken about in the beginning of this meeting, is that the Ministry of Investment will be raising the red flag, if you may, when we see harmful legislations that will harm the investment, the stability of the investment, and raises the risk. In addition to work with the competitiveness center headed by my colleague Majid Al-Qasabi, and they play a great role to facilitate business. So if we control all those elements, I believe that the kingdom will be the international leader and one of the best infrastructures to activate the Saudi investment. We move on to the next question. Peace be upon Muhammad from Bawabat Arqam. My question is to the Minister of Investment. The first question: what are your expectations to the growth of investment in the second half of 2020? What are the catalysts provided to the local, both the local and international investors, to invest in the kingdom? Of course, investment in general is in continuous growth in the kingdom, and maybe what's leading the 2020 investments is the General Investment Fund. As my colleague Yasser talked about the project they conducting, and also the Saudi investors are engaging in those projects, and we see major projects throughout the kingdom. And the foreign investment, as I said in the first half, the encouragement of the flow of the foreign investment might be decreased by 40 to 50% in the first half. Hopefully, it will see an improvement, and the kingdom will receive a portion of that decline. We are part of the international community, and also the reduction of the level of economical activities that have slowed. As far as the incentives, and this is the second part of the question, I have mentioned before that there will be special economical zones, and in those zones, once they're approved, and now we are in the final approval phases, it have certain exceptions and attract Saudi investors and non-Saudi investors targeting building new industries. But what we are seeking to come up with new industries and to improve the level of the economical activities, such as the medicine production sector and the biotechnology sector, the digital industries, the artificial intelligence will have a specific environment through those economical zones. There will be an exceptional, some exceptions, some of the tax initiatives. But I'm going back to the first question that you mentioned. The goal is to have the kingdom on the same level, a unified level, to be better than other countries as we try to correlate all those factors into the economy. Now we move on to the third question. Peace be upon you. Tallah Shamari from CNBC channel. My question to Mr. Mohammed Tweji, as your Vice Chairman of the National Development Fund, in the beginning of this pandemic, you have received your fund have received support of an incentive package of 22 billion riyals. Also during this period, as we know, the private sector is facing some hardship. Are there any grievance period? Are there any surplus packages that will be provided as you see the needs of the private sector in 2021? Did you plan for this next period? Three points here. First point is this evaluation is continuous. There is a higher coordination committee that continuously reviewing this matter, looking at the health system, the number of infections or affected individuals. We look at the financial system also, as far as providing finance. Also, the fund is part of this system. So through this system, we'll do all that is necessary for the private sector, specifically those who are affected during this pandemic. The support will be continued. The second part of the question, the great efforts made possible by in the health sector to reopen the economy as soon as possible through the vaccine, providing the vaccine or the centers that has been established to reopen the economy is a matter of great importance. So we can get the wheel turning back again, if you may, and we must differentiate between the sectors that truly were affected by this pandemic compared to the other sectors. Our goal is to support those who were affected the most, but the policies are available as far as the support needed will be given, especially for SMEs that hire the Saudi citizens. Mustafa Saleh from Ghawat Al-Qawm Al-Maliya. The fund said it has taken advantage of very fruitful investments and the investment have entered into many American companies' investment and came out of those investment in a short period of time. Is the fund focusing on short-term investments? As I mentioned before, the investment fund did not only enter the American markets, and there were data because our entry to those markets be at high prices, though those transactions had to be recorded, whether they were in Europe or the United States or any other markets in Asia. Taking advantage of those opportunities and must be there. And with each crisis, there is an opportunity. There is a crisis throughout history forever. So we have entered into some sectors, some American markets, some Asian, European markets. We have entered and exited some of those markets, not only on the company's level, but also with ETFs in different sectors, whether it's medicine sectors or infrastructure sectors, industry, technology sectors. So, no doubt, we have been able to invest, gain some profits, exit those markets, and if we see any increase, we'll sell, and if we see a decline, we'll buy. Every day, we have 1,000 employees. Many of them, that's just their job, just sitting there in front of those skiers, the Bloomberg or Reuters agencies, just looking at the news and looking at the strategies, working with the strategies. What are the best means of taking advantage of those opportunities, in addition to our investment efforts, whether on a local or international level. You know that we have 6 investment portfolios. 4 of it are local and 2 are international. So taking advantage of the investments will always be there, but we also look into midterm and long-term investment. I believe that we have a last question. What is the role of the General Investment Fund to incentivize the Saudi economical growth? Thank you. Abdelhadi Abtour from Middle East Newspaper. The local investments on a historical level before 2015 mounted up to 98%, but the General Investment Fund was less than 560 million riyals. So what we are hoping for, that the local investments will be 80 versus 20%. The investment diversification is one of our goals, whether on the local level or even internationally. So the question asked always, why are we moving internationally in regards to investment? The first reason is the diversity of the returns that will be pumped into the national economy, and the second issue is securing matter, or the insurance matter. The national economy is correlated to the oil, but now with the exceptional efforts now, the reliance on oil has went down by 90%. So it's surely the General Investment Fund will form 80% locally, and there will also be investment with not less than 150 billion in 2021 and 2022, and hopefully we reach 200 billion post 2022 until we reach 2030, and that's the year of the realization of the Vision 2030. 7 to 10 trillion riyals by 2030. Thank you, Your Excellencies. I don't have more time. Thank you, the Minister of Investment, Khalid bin Abdul Faleh, His Excellency, the Counselor of the Royal Court, Mr. Mohammed Muzid Twajri, also His Excellency, the Director of the General Investment Fund, Mr. Yasser Mayad. I thank you all to those who were with us here in this virtual dialogue session, hoping that we will meet you again in coming sessions. Bye.
الخير في فجره المرتجى إذا ما تهيأ ثم اكتمل ليشرق في نظرة الحالمين فيتلو اليقين بعين الأمل فيتلو اليقين بعين الأمل وشعب تمثل عزم الجبل وروح سمت في عنان السماء فإذ كل نجم عليها استدل أنا الأرض إذ هام قلبي بها وفي كل قلب بها لي محل سعودية الحزم حيث القرار يحيل المحال إلى المحتمل يحيل المحال إلى المحتمل
أصحاب المعالي والسعادة الحضور
Peace be upon you. I'm glad to welcome you all in this dialogue session, fourth dialogue session, in the second day of the budget announcement of the government for the year 2021 that we entitled Investment in Technology and Infrastructure. And we'll be talking in this session about subjects about investment in the digital services according to the vision of the Kingdom 2030 during the past years and its role in overcoming the corona pandemic and the size of accomplishment during the pandemics. And also in this session, we'll be talking about these digital services and the size of accomplishment for the remote work for both the private and the public sector, and focusing on the technology in the future. In the beginning, I would like to welcome Their Excellencies, my guest, the Minister of Communication, Information Technology, Dr. Abdullah Swaha, and His Excellency, the Director of the Saudi Commission for Data and Artificial Intelligence, Dr. Abdullah Al Ghamdi. And we move directly to our dialogue. First, with the Minister of Communication and Information Technology. As we know that the digital infrastructure in the kingdom has become advanced, even on a global level, and it has participated in mitigating the health and the security burdens that could have been caused by the corona pandemic. Talk to us about the achievements during this year in the Ministry of Communication and Information Technology. The kingdom in 2020 have proved it has a clear vision as we put human above all. And if 2020 was a test for the world in the past 90 years, as far as the economical, financial, and health aspect, the kingdom has passed this test by all means, to put the human first and the nation above all by the optimal use of technology. So if we elaborate on, I remember clearly in 2018, we were in a forum resembling this one to approve the 2019 budget, and we have talked extensively about the investments of the state and the wise, keen leadership of the leadership. And we have also spoke about releasing the video and audio visuals to support the remote education, the smart cities, the remote education, remote health, and all the means of life that we saw in 2020 that were pivotal. And also on the investment aspect, we started this journey with a surplus package, 9 billion riyals. This 9 billion riyals have generated, with in participation with the private sector, have generated 55 billion riyals that have turned the digital transformation to face all the challenges and the opportunities of 2020 and post 2020. So if we talk about numbers and facts, in 2017, the kingdom was not part of the first 100 countries of the speed and the quality of the internet, and now we are one of the best 10 countries in the speed and the quality of the internet. In the 5th generation, we are ranked first, according to Opensignal report, and the biggest acclaim that we have received in this sector in the digital competitiveness report in the European Center for Governance, the infrastructure and the investment in the infrastructure, investing in youth and assets of the nation, that had resulted that the kingdom becoming number one of the G20 countries. And because to put nation above all, I want also to remind you of a story and launching the budget of 2020. It have been signed by the Ministry of Finance and the Director of the Central Bank, and talked about the digital payments will be the very vital and important. We gave him a plan to resolve the matter within 9 months. He said that you have 90 days. Within 60 days, we have moved some startups from the prototype, and those companies were the base that supported the entrepreneurs and the SMEs during this pandemic, when cash was not, that helped entrepreneurs to continue the work. Those are beautiful stories, and just a small portion of this huge story. 80,000 employees of the communication ministry. Thank you for those efforts that have turned this inclusive world, this pandemic, as an opportunity to be creative and to expand the usage of the internet or the web has increased during the pandemic. To what extent this digital infrastructure had helped the continuation of work in both the public and the private sector. We talked today that the digital infrastructure is not only what has saved us during this pandemic, but is truly the artery of life, if we may, for remote education, remote health, and smart cities. If we go back 8 years, the starting line was 1 million houses connected to fiber optics, and we stayed committed that before the end of 2020, we'll celebrate 3.5 million houses connected to fiber optics. And we fulfilled our promise with the praise of Allah and support of our leaders. And to talk about the support of our leaders, I remember a historical meeting. Should we approve those strategies or we give priority to other initiatives? So there were different point of views, but with a wise point of view of the Crown Prince, we know that this is vital for the future and the future markets. And also some of the historical decisions with the acclamation of many international organizations. We have exceeded 160 gigahertz to 1,000. To simplify the idea, they have a pressure on 30 to 40% on networks. We face the same pressure, but the advanced countries have fell off the 10 best countries, and we entered this ranking to rank among the 10 best. Where if we succeeded in 2020 in the biggest test, we must shed the light. Also, that we must thank all those made this possible, and also our success in the biggest international summit, the G20 summit, and was a great opportunity to see a live example of the Vision 2030. Many ask about this Vision 2030. It's a leadership example with a team spirit to work between the public-private sector, all trying to see the slogan of the flag of the kingdom, the two swords and the palm tree. Whether it was government entities or partners in Success, Hedaya, or partners in the private sector, everyone has worked relentlessly. So working with leaders controlling more than the 2/3 of the economy of the world, raising the banner of La ilaha illallah, and thanks from the heart to Dr. Abdullah Sharaf and my colleagues in Sedaya. Thank you for all those who have made this summit successful. And now move to Dr. Abdullah Hamdi. Your Excellency, Sedaya has played a great role to use technology to mitigate the effects of Corona. Talk to us about this role. Thank you, Brother Majid. First, I thank Engineer Abdullah that led this journey to organize the virtual G20 summit. I'm glad that we have accomplished it with exceptional conclusions, and we have proved that all our youth, our young men and women, were part of this challenge. The roll-ups there during the pandemic, we were within 2 weeks with the dedication and devotion of the youth that we truly invested in when we first started in SEDAG. It was a true investment in our youth and the exceptional competencies that we had from both genders. We were capable within 2 weeks to come out with the Wakkalna application that in its beginning was to manage the lockdown and to manage the pandemic. We have been able to better manage this pandemic. We have issued more than 1 million licenses for movement during the pandemic, and 12 million licenses for the government entities employees. It was a great challenge. In the first 2 weeks, the applicants had reached 5 million registries, and we have reached more than 8.5 million registered in Tawakkalna application. It was a great challenge that went through 2 phases. The second phase is returning with cautious and opening the businesses back as far as the government entities or the private sector. It was another great challenge that we were capable to work with this challenge and transform the Tawakalna application as a contributing element to returning back to normal, working with different government entities, providing more than 30 services that will facilitate for the public conducting business through this application. As I mentioned, 8.5 million users have benefited from the services, whether in the education sector through the Madrasati application. For the health sector, you also can view the results of the test through Tawakkalna. We have also been able to issue gathering licenses, if you may, or crowd licensing. Also to travel to we have also reassured people of their movement. We have launched about application and was an application that faced a great challenge, and we have ranked third place globally in using Google and Apple to and it was an exceptional application to use in two protocols. 3 million users have used this application, and we have conducted 3 billion transactions without any human interference. This is no doubt is an effort that is greatly appreciated even for the health sector to managing returning with cautious with a high level of professionalism. We have also been able through Abshir application to update 280 services that enable the citizens, the expatriates, to be able to conduct all their official business with the government. More thousands, tens of thousands of establishments were able to conduct business during the pandemic. More than 350,000 expatriates had been able to return to their countries under the platform of Auda. 2 million driver license and vehicle license has been issued through Abshir application. So people were able to conduct those businesses with the government through the application. We also have another application called Brug, and we have developed this application. The directives before were before the extraordinary summit, 8 days into that summit, to provide a safe aviation passage, and this was a great challenge. I was informed by Engineer Abdullah that we must work relentlessly to achieve this national achievement, and it was the same group of young men and women that worked with us in the beginning. They worked with us again to be able to complete this platform, Blue platform, and then right after that the journey started, and from that day on we were capable of holding more than 800 meetings, virtual meetings through Brook application. We're also able to hold the G20 summit during the month of November, and praise to Allah, through a safe platform. And we're also able to provide a center for security operations that were capable to combat a number of cyber attacks. All those great efforts and the exceptional results during this exceptional record time moves us to a more important subject about the future of Sidaya. Sidaya is focusing on leading the future of the kingdom post the pandemic. How will that take place, and what will you bet then on? The pandemic was an opportunity for us to continue working on all the efforts that we started and to enhance our digital and technical capabilities. And praise to Allah, we were capable of launching the national data and artificial intelligence strategy. and we participated in the Data and International Summit, and it's a very optimistic strategy that will help us achieve the vision of 2030, and it's based on six main axes. A very ambitious strategy, and through it we hope that be among 15 countries in the world in the field of artificial intelligence, according to the International Indicator for Artificial Intelligence. And praise to Allah, it has been announced about our international ranking, and we have been able to achieve or to reach the 22nd, ranked 22nd, and ranked first on Arabian level, the best among 15 countries. We also hope that we will be among the best 15 countries in R&D and artificial intelligence, and is used in all the vital aspects. According to the 2030, we hope to provide support to entrepreneurs through the open data systems, and we also have an ambition and economical aspiration to make data and artificial intelligence, and as a knowledge-based economy, will be alternative strong economy by investment that reached $20 billion, equivalent of 75 million Saudi riyals, both local and international investment, and also establishing 300 startups in this field by 2030. No doubt that the startups is the nucleus of the knowledge-based economy, and we also have put some of the targets of this economy to qualify 20,000 experts in artificial intelligence and data, but those specialists will be qualitative specialist professional in this field. This is in regard to the national strategy and its ambitions and aspirations in the digital services aspect. We have completed a number of initiatives. First, to build a government cloud, and we've been able to integrate more than 120 data center in different government entities, and those centers were capable of providing 85% of providing maintenance of digital infrastructure, and we have invested by 1 billion riyals annually through this integration, or we have saved 1 billion riyals, rather saved 1 billion riyals in this regard through this integration. We also target to finish this journey to integrate the data center, to have more than 90 data center by 2022. We also have the National Data Bank, and this bank during the past period we were capable to integrate more than 110 data systems from big systems of the government, and to improve that data center. And we've been able to provide this data to more than 100 government entities. We have finished more than 8 billion transactions between government entities. So now we have the cloud government computing, and we have now we're trying to launch the different initiatives, and we have Istishraf initiatives, our application, with the help the decision makers to take decisions based on knowledge. We have made them more 40 scenarios for the government leaders, and through those scenarios we were able to create opportunities to save amounts of money that exceeded 43 million riyals, and all of that goes back to the budget of the state to benefit from in other development projects that will help the citizen. This is as far as the digital projects that we provide. In the next phase, we are continuing in this regard. We also have the NAFAD application. 147 government entities use this application, so the citizens do not need to go to those government entities to confirm the identity. Through those systems we can confirm those identity. This is what raises the level of the quality of life. We continue in that journey, and we are hoping that those accomplishments will lead us to exceptionality and to achieve our goals even before 2030. We hope your success. Of course, the time is going on, so allow me, Your Excellencies and the audience that are still just viewing this with us, to receive some of the questions by some of the reporters and the media representatives through the appropriate channels to receive those questions, so their excellencies can answer some of those questions. Peace be upon you. Atala Shemari from CNBC Arabia channel. My question to the Minister of Communication: the entrepreneurs had played a major role during the pandemic. How did you look to the participation of the digital entrepreneurship during this era, and what are the sectors that you believe that will grow in the next period that also had benefited from the pandemic, and are there any new plans to keep up with this expected growth? Thank you for the question. In crises, you see the true meaning of leadership and entrepreneurship. The entrepreneurs of the world from both genders, we have seen all devotion and dedication from them. Abu Abdulaziz was with us in this story. We were in a meeting for 48 hours before the very hard decision, which was the curfew. The question to us was, are the entrepreneurs of today, the delivery companies, ready to provide the citizens with the main supplies, food supplies, health supplies, medicines? And within 48 hours, we worked as a behave to the ministry, the Commission of Communication, our colleagues in the Data and Artificial Intelligence Center. Within 40 hours, we worked with pioneers. The pioneers didn't only work with us as far as the efforts they provided to provide all that's needed, food supply, medicine, and so forth, to ensure the careful that there will not be any hardship for us here. And they also gave up their profit margins. They worked with all the security agencies in a record time record, and this success story have created job opportunities in one application, more than 90,000 job opportunities, with the nationalizing rate increasing, surpassing 50%. My advice to those entrepreneurs that work for a higher goal, to achieve sustainability, to create the jobs of the future, the markets of the future, to continue on this path. And I will mention one of the new markets that have what is known as a billion company, a unicorn company. And we started this journey. We had a number of companies such as STC Pay. We started with a simple idea as a dream. My thanks extend to my colleagues in STC Pay. In 2020, now we're celebrating as one of the first companies that received a $1 billion evaluation here in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and shedding light on entrepreneurship in 2020. We've seen the positive movements and the number and the size of the transaction of what we have seen in 2019 altogether, just only the first few months of 2020. So once we focus on the fintechs, the artificial intelligence, on the blockchain, on the remote health, the remote education, all of those are gains that we must preserve, and who don't thank people don't thank Allah. I must also shed the light on the leaders that provided support to us on remote health and education. There are more than 8 million students, not only in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, but in the region in general. We are at the heart of the Arab world for creativity and innovation. My thanks extend for all the delivery companies, the postal service company. When there's a full closure, a full lockdown, in Makkah Medina there was the benevolence baskets as we delivered those baskets in an honorable manner that serves all our fellow citizens in the two holy mosque cities, and we are hoping that will continue to develop in the coming years. Now we move on to the next question. Khalid Rubish, Chief Editor of Riyadh Newspaper. My question is the Director of Artificial Intelligence Agency. To what extent the repercussions of the pandemic has helped enhancing the digital infrastructure of the kingdom, and how can we benefit from the digital infrastructure in other sectors, whether health sector or education sector, even in the private sector? How can we benefit from this digital infrastructure? Thank you for the question. As I mentioned before, we looked at this pandemic as an opportunity. We looked at the positive aspects of this pandemic, and we've been able during this pandemic to complete and enhance our level of preparedness on a technical aspect. As I mentioned, the platform, the virtual platform, we're able to enhance the security aspect of that platform and to raise the level of performance. We have established a center for security operation. As far as the cyber attacks, we have completed this during this pandemic with the least cause and the most effectiveness. And now we move to the next question. Peace be upon you. Saleh Zaid from the Middle East newspaper. My question is, what is the size of the investment in digital infrastructure, and how did it contribute to better manage the G20 and manage the different sectors during the pandemic? What is the kingdom's plan to achieve growth and have that enabled us to mitigate the impact of the repercussions of the coronavirus? Thank you for the question, and I think we have elaborated in the previous answer about the size of investment that had reached 55 billion riyals, starting with the surplus package from the government with 9 billion riyals that has generated qualitative investments in the sector. Now we have celebrated the presidency of the Kingdom of the Summit of G20. Many of the countries were advanced before the pandemic. Now, if we look at the numbers, in 15 years to covering very high speed internet to 91%. The kingdom we started the journey, and now we are at 95%. We are among the first three countries in the coverage. As far as the coverage and the speeds, we are more advanced than many countries. As far as the fifth generation technology, we started with a prototype in 2019. We're among the first in the area, and now we have 11,000 towers with a 54% coverage and 60% in the major cities. This had made us rank number one in Open Signal report as far as the quality and the speed of the internet. But when we talk about the second part of the question about the future, there are three main pillars. First, we must preserve our gains. Now we have remote health and education application, the social distancing. We have the OCAN application. Those are national gains and practical examples that have been highly acclaimed in all international forums. So this is we must preserve this success, and it's continuous even post the pandemic, hoping that this pandemic will end. The second pillar is the growth of the market, the artificial intelligence, the smart cities. Those are future markets, and each and every one of those opportunities have more than $10 billion that will contribute to the GDP and hundreds of thousands of jobs. So the focus will be on those markets first, and the third aspect is to open new horizons. We are at the heart of the world as far as the thermal energy, but now using the data, artificial intelligence, and the new technology and the solid digital infrastructure. We can be at the heart of the world as far as the renewable and green energy, and also the cooperative economy. The examples that we see today, since we have an aware youth and capable of using technology and better optimize this technology, the local content also, and entertainment. Now we are one of the highest countries, consuming countries. In the next 3 years, will be one of the countries that compete in export this technology. This nation, with all its gains, with its youth, is moving forward to develop the future. Our story of enabling the youth and women within 3 years from 7% in the sector in technology, information technology and communication, we have reached 21%. This advancement to enable the youth and the entrepreneur had a positive role to recover from the pandemic, and even before the pandemic on 3 consecutive years when the growth of the non-oil GDP was at 3%, the growth in the digital economy was more than that, and that all due to the youth empowerment and women empowerment. The talk about accomplishment and the numbers branches but the time for our session has ended. At the end, I thank your presence, your excellencies, and my thanks extend to you, the spectators, for being with us, and peace be upon you.